very pleasant good morning to you. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of Wncr-Tv Now. My name is Bronson Williams. I do hope you had a fantastic yesterday, making today even better than your yesterday, for sure. We are live on Wncr-TV, live on WAJA 102.5 FM, as we talk about things impacting our state, our city, and our nation this morning. 42 minutes past 7 o'clock hour, and yes, we are live on the air. And let me get the, not the Facebook Live, because, again, that's not functioning today. But we do have, live on YouTube. We do have the YouTube working this morning. And so that's been consistent. So we thank YouTube for its consistency. How about that? All right. So sharing it to WNCR TV Facebook page. YouTube can do the same thing at your leisure. And as you tune in today or whenever you might be tuning in, you can always share, whether delayed or on time. All works just fine. That's shared on WNCR TV Facebook page. Now let me share it on my page. How about that? Let's see. Good Wednesday morning. Can you believe it's already Wednesday? Already Wednesday. Wow. Okay. So there we go. It's already Wednesday, a day, of course, we've never seen before. It is the 26th? Yeah, the 26th day of February, 2025. This year is waiting for who? No one at all. So as we always say, don't put off for tomorrow what you can do today, for tomorrow is not promised to you. So that is something to certainly think about as well. And I'm here a little earlier than normal. How about that? So it's almost a 7:30-ish time frame. Technically, I'm normally here by 8, and so I should call it 8-ish. But this morning, got on in here a little bit earlier. Not because I have a whole bunch to talk about, but simply just how it worked out this morning. Of course, we've been talking about national news more than anything. Of course, phone lines open for today at 252-407-8432. That's 252-407-8432. But the North Carolina General Assembly, of course, is doing a number of things. I'll just say that. And we will see how this session will unfold. Let's see. What is this? That's just some talking fodder there. Yep, some talking fodder, so we don't need that there. I'll go back and talk about this again. We've been talking about this week. And, of course, Republican North Carolina legislator wants to get rid of state agencies' policies promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. Under House Bill 171, no state agency could promote, support, fund, implement, or maintain workplace DEI programs, policies or initiatives. The bill instructs the state auditor, Republican Dan Bullock, to conduct periodic audits of state agencies to ensure compliance. A state employee who violates the law could lose their job and face misdemeanor criminal charges. The bill also prohibits the use of state funds for DEI initiatives by local governments and non-state entities. The bill hasn't come up for a vote in the state Senate or the state House of Representatives, but Republicans have control of the state legislature since 2011 and have won leadership roles in several state agencies in the recent years. The House Bill 171 comes just a month after President Donald Trump signs an executive order that aims to end DEI programs in the federal government. A federal judge recently paused Trump's order, blocking the administration from terminating or changing federal contracts they consider equity related. So that's going to be interesting. Of course, here in North Carolina, the Democrats currently is led by the governor's office, attorney general's office, the Department of Public Instruction, and the Secretary of State office. Bullock, the state's auditor and labor commissioner, Luke Farley, recently announced earlier this month that they are halting all DEI policies in their offices. So that's where we are here in North Carolina, and perhaps across the country when it comes to that. And again, after a while, it's going to be a tired song. And so people are going to say, well, it is what it is type situation. And that, unfortunately, is how so many things that are that shouldn't be the way that they are end up being the way they are because people opt to say nothing, do nothing, and etc. Another proposal that's in the legislative body is a ban of cell phones in North Carolina classes. And so let me see what bill that was. I saw that on Facebook the other day. Let's see. And I get it. Cell phones are in some cases disruptive in the class, or can be. In other situations, they actually have helped to see what actually was going on in the classroom, especially when these things are going on. House Bill 87. So let's look at House Bill 87 here this morning. Escape. And so you can simply go to ncledge.gov. And each bill is, you got to make sure you're in the House, I'm not the House bill, but in the right session. House Bill 87. Because each one has its own situation going on. That was a very short bill. Let me look at something real quick. This type of legislation, I will say, just looking at it. Let me go to Edition 2. Okay. Just looking at it, this is a type of legislation that oftentimes is not the ended result of the actions held by the organization, in this case, the North Carolina General Assembly. And so, of course, this is from February 11, 2025. It says an act to develop policies to restrict students' use of cell phones in public schools. The General Assembly of North Carolina enacts Section 1A, Article 7B of Chapter 115C, which 115C pretty much deals with public schools in North Carolina. The general statutes amended by adding a new part to read Part 7, Classroom Policies. 115C-77.1, Cell Phone Free Education Policy. Governing bodies of public school units shall adopt a cell phone free education policy to eliminate or severely restrict students' access to cell phones during instructional time. At the beginning of each school year, governing bodies of public school units shall notify parents of all students enrolled in the public schools unit of the cell phone free education policy adopted under this subsection of this section. So he talks about the requirements of this section shall not apply to the following: remote charter academies defined by General Statute 115C-218.120, or remote academies as defined by General Statute 115-234. General Statute 115C-771, as enacted by this act, shall not apply to virtual charter schools participating in pilot programs as authorized by Section 8.35 of Session Law 2014-100, as amended by Section 8.13 of Session Law 2016-97 and Section 7.13 of Session Law 2018-5 and Section 7.13 of Session Law 2022-74 and Section 2.26 of Session Law 2023-134. This act is effective when it becomes law and applies to the beginning of the 2025-2026 school year. So their goal is to have it apply in August. And so that's going to be interesting. If this bill actually stays the way that it is, for one, and then two, sometimes they create like little placeholder bills, and they will have a bill there. It's like just in case we need it type situation. So sometimes you really don't know whether or not this bill is truly created for the actual purpose of eliminating cell phones in schools. It does have a number of sponsors for the bill, including the primary sponsors being Jackson Biggs, Eddie's, and I don't know how to say that last name, Shosek or something like that. So we'll see what happened with that. If it was to be passed, it would have to be passed prior to August of this year if it's going to begin with school year. With the school year 2025, 2026. Now, I will say, though, and just yesterday, the bill was, they did adopt, rather, a committee substitute. And so then it was then referred to the Judiciary Committee on yesterday after passing, because every bill has to go through certain committees before it actually goes to the floor to vote on it if they do it the way that it's supposed to be done. Now, that's going to be the question, whether or not it's supposed to be done. And so then, of course, when it becomes law, if it does become law, you'll have a number of families talking about, no, my child or my son, my daughter needs their phone in class. And then the policy then becomes more disruptive to class than the actual policy itself in its intended purposes, because you're going to have those parents who are going to say, no, I need to be able to contact my child for this, that, and the third. And then you can have some school districts going to be more restricted than others, because one thing I think I did read is that it must severely, is that what, let me go back to it. I think it said it must severely try to eliminate, let me see. Yeah. The governing bodies of public school units shall adopt a cell phone free education policy to eliminate or severely restrict student access to cell phones during instructional time. And so then that's going to be up to the interpretation of what does severely mean. Does it mean that you once had access to cell phones during instructional times for 100% of the time, and so now we're going to give you access to cell phones 2% of the time? One could argue that may be severely. Now, if you say, hey, you had access to a cell phone 100% of the time, you can still have access 90%, one would say that would not be severe enough. And so severely, again, creates a situation of bad law, in my opinion, in that it leaves it up to interpretation as to what severely actually means. And that's going to be interpretation up to the courts when the legislative body don't get it correct the first time, right? And so if they was to make a definition as to what severely means, they can look at what the total instructional time is, and that it must be greater than this percentage of instructional time to meet the threshold of severely. That way, when you go to court to challenge it, you say, hey, did you meet it? Did you not? And that's be left to the courts to determine what severe means in this law. But of course, it hasn't completely gotten to the floor to a vote. So maybe between now and then, that may be talked about or whatever, so they can actually have some teeth to this piece of 22-line piece of law there. One other thing that was brought to my attention on yesterday that was asked that I would share it with you right here. Let me send this to my Facebook page so I can pull it up. I guess this is going to be some product promotion real quick. Some product promotion. Let's get to my Facebook here. The Book of Face. See if Facebook ever came up over here. Nope. All right. So over here, this was sent to me here. This is something that's available on Amazon, and I guess a little plug here for this. So this is, I guess, some egg yolk powder. Eggylicious, cage-free egg yolk powder, 11 ounces, made in the USA from humanely raised cage-free eggs, perfect for smoothies, puddings, baking sauces, non-bioengineered and no additives. And that's quite interesting because you see it in a can or a jar. But it's $36, and I think with the cost of eggs going on, this may be a way for you to save a little money and have some humanly or humanely rather grown, raised, whatever, cage-free birds who produce these eggs that's in a powder form. So that's something to think about. And if you are a non-Prime member, you can get it. If you order it today, you get it by Monday, March the 3rd. And if you are a Prime member, you will get it by Friday if I was to order within 7 hours and 3 minutes if I was a Prime member. So that's something there that someone asked me to share it with you this morning. So I did do that as well, with, again, the price of eggs going up. And all throughout last year, you talked about eggs going down. Let me see if I can find something about that. And you had conversation from people on a political arena talking about the price of eggs and inflation and all of these things here. Don't want to play this in its entirety. Yeah, we'll play this here from Reuters. If I can get it playing, that would be beneficial. This is from CPAC. No, this is not what I need here. That's not what I need there. That I look at that. Sometimes information, you click on the wrong stuff, and it ain't right. The stuff you see on not social media, but on the internet in general. So anyway, obviously we've seen the price of eggs not going down, and that was a major conversation there over things that were too costly. I was talking about gas prices, talking about the price of eggs and things of that nature, and here it is. We're still looking at the same thing, and in fact, I think there was going to be some impact to inflation. I think it was said on record that Donald Trump said, "Hey, he has nothing to do with it." And to that point, it just depends on what they target the symptoms behind, because again, there is some hangover impact from former presidency that is not immediately taking action. But I will say a number of the conversational pieces that at that time presidential candidate, then President-elect Donald Trump had, certainly would impact the economy as to what he said he will do day one when he becomes the President of the United States of America. And many of those things he attempted to do by executive order. And so, you really don't know what type of impact that would and will have on inflation. Of course, he looked at some of those tariff scares that went on and caused other countries to say, well, hey, we can do the same thing as well. In fact, we'll stop importing some of the American products of alcohol. And so that's going to be impactful for sure. However long that lasted or will last or what have you with the relationship between America and Canada. So that's something to certainly think about as well. And there's just so much going on nationally that impacts us locally in every facet. One of the things that I continue to see too on social media is the fact that because of some of the cuts and restrictions that President Donald Trump has enacted through the various agencies that he's responsible for, you are seeing some of these colleges saying, hey, we no longer have scholarships available for your education. So, for instance, this is from ABC, which is also in conjunction with the Associated Press in Washington, D.C. It says a federal scholarship aimed to boost students from underserved and rural areas attending historically black colleges and universities has been put on hold. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is suspending the 1890 Scholars Program, which provides recipients with full tuition and fees for students studying agriculture, food, natural resources, sciences at one of the 19 universities known as the 1819 land grant institutions. It's not clear exactly when the program was suspended, but some members of Congress first issued statements criticizing suspension on the program this past Thursday. The 1890 Scholars Program has been suspended pending further review, the Department of Agriculture said in a post on the program's website. The suspension coincided with the funding freeze President Donald Trump's administration instituted. The administration officials said the pause was necessary to review whether spending aligned with President Trump's executive orders on issues like climate change, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. A spokesperson for the department said on Saturday in an email to the Associated Press that every scholar over 300, regardless of matriculation date, was retained to finish their studies and complete their work with the department. The spokesperson added that Secretary Brooke Rollins will review the scholarship program, its mission, and metrics to ensure the taxpayers' resources are used efficiently. The funding freeze has been challenged in court, but a temporary hold on the executive action is already in place. The affected universities include Alabama A&M, Florida A&M, North Carolina A&T, and then Tuskegee University in Alabama and among others. So the scholarship, of course, goes back to 1992, but the 1890 in the title refers to the Second Morrill Act of 1890, which established historically black colleges and universities. The eligibility rule to include, you must be a U.S. citizen. So here's how you can qualify for the scholarship in the first place. One, you must be a U.S. citizen. So it is a scholarship that's going towards a United States citizen. You must have a GPA of a 3.0 or better, along with acceptance to one of the 19 1890 land grant universities. Eligible students must also study agriculture or related fields to demonstrate leadership and community service, according to the department's website. In October, the department said it set aside $19.2 million to the program in fiscal year 2024. 94 students were awarded scholarships, the department said. North Carolina A&T State University is the largest HBCU in the country, located in Greensboro, North Carolina. So the impact of this, the impact of what President Donald Trump is doing is certainly going to be felt across the country, as presidential actions normally do. They're not just particular to one set area. What will that do for public education in the goal of saying, hey, we want to target diversity, equity, and inclusion? Now, on the flip side of that, when you go back, when people were arguing why President Trump should be reelected president of the United States of America again, they talked about the number of things he did for HBCUs. I think it was like half a billion dollars, maybe 500 million, something of that nature, as to what he did for HBCUs. And so then the question is going to be, will that too be undone going forward? Because again, they may say that HBCUs don't promote equity, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So the very thing that some people use as justification to support and to say that he was for everyone after being sworn into the presidency of the United States of America, with the direction of the type of people who are being appointed to certain cabinet level positions and or secretaries of this and whatever, which are cabinet level positions, they have similar ideas. Again, you look at Linda McMahon, who talked about pretty much getting rid of or abolishing the Department of Education in alignment with what President Donald Trump had talked about. And then you look at the whole thing, oh, well, it's not Project 2025. And so when you go back and look at the track record of what they wanted to do within that huge, massive document, then you see it playing out in real time today, right? It's playing out in real time today of a number of actions in which they wanted to do under a Trump administration, and they're working towards it. So at the end of the day, I cannot fault an organization or a candidate for doing what they say they were going to do. If they said they were going to do it and they did exactly what they said they was going to do, I'd be like, then who am I to judge that, right? Because that's what you should expect in a candidate. That's what you should expect in a candidate, to do what they say they're going to do. And clearly, that is what, okay, I can do that now too. That's clearly what they have been doing and probably will continue to do going forward. Oh, I thought, yeah, okay, perfect. And so we'll see how all that will unfold. Hadn't got any information about the Unity Cemetery. I know that was a question that was brought up the other day as well. And of course, we showed that flag yesterday about the Confederate and the United States of America flag simultaneously there. We showed that on yesterday, and then was getting some thoughts. I think we had a caller call in regards to what it means to them. And of course, then a caller called in and gave us the number to a complaint line for, I believe it was the auditor's office. I didn't confirm that number, but he did give the number on yesterday as to how to get the auditor into your city or town when you suspect things are going on. I would always say that the first step is to have conversation with the local agency first, asking the requisite questions in regards to what it is that you're looking for. So by picking up the phone and calling whatever township or municipality you might be in and said, hey, I've got a couple of questions about a couple of things. Or if you're like the city of Rocky Mount, you actually have this website that they have kind of redone. We kind of showed it the other day, and I'll show it again today. This website that they have kind of redone, and the goal is to make it more user friendly. And so right there on the front splash page, you have some of the common used tabs, like you can pay your bill online if you're looking for permits and inspections, job opportunities, what open bids are there, garbage and recycling, and the city council. Those quick clicks to there. And then there was a question yesterday about the houses. So I guess we could have went right to the website during that particular time and talk about these particular houses. And so it says, maybe we can answer this question right here today. So it says that the two single-family homes, 811 and 815 Hammond Street, which were originally donated to the city in 2017, are now up for sale through a sealed bid process. The minimum bid for both homes is $10,000. And so I think the question was asked yesterday, was it $410 for both homes? And that is correct. It is for both homes. So you must be at least $10,000 to even start the bid. And the successful bidder will enter into a written agreement with the city of Rocky Mount to provide that the bidder will have 18 months to complete the restoration and receive a certificate of occupancy. Upon the issuance of a CO, the city will convey the titles to the property. The successful bidder will need to show evidence of financial capacity to complete the project, provide insurance, and provide quarterly reports. For more information, contact Derek Winston at 252-972-1398 in community development. But those are the two homes there on Hammond, which is right across the street from formerly Rocky Mount High, which is now Rocky Mount Middle, and then the city schools, I think is what they call it too. City high. And I think it housed some other program over there too. But that's that one. It looks like they did remove the tree because this was the house I think had a tree in the yard today. Well, no, there was a tree there, so maybe they did. That's just in the backyard. I think the tree is in the front yard, so I think the tree may be gone. I haven't rode by there physically to see it, but that is what is going on as it relates to that housing project or bid opportunity. Now, again, the seal bid is they don't go back and forth. Well, technically they do kind of go back and. Well, I don't know about the seal. I got to look at the seal bid process rules because the seal bid process may award it directly. I got to look at that because it says successful bidder will enter into a written agreement with the city, which provides that the bidder has 18 months to complete it. And it may be that through a seal bid process, they don't have to go back and solicit for additional bids to upset the bid. It eliminates the upset bid process that you get it or you don't type situation. And so that may very well be true. Let me see. Looking for the general statute related to the bid process. Construction, this is construction, exceptions, bridge and repair, contracts, e-verify, so that ain't it. That was saying if they did do it, what it looks like. Yep, so that's right. So yep. So quick step. So it's General Statute 160A-268. That sounds about right because 160 is dealing with municipalities and things of that nature. So, and this is a quick little cheat sheet. It says listed below are the basic procedures required under state law for disposing of personal and real property by sealed bid procedure. Step 1, the governing board adopts a resolution authorizing the sale. Wait, maybe I missed that. wait. And again, I could have, and they could have done this. I have no earthly idea. I guess you have to go back and look at the city council agendas. But it says step 1, the governing board adopts a resolution authorizing the sale by sealed bid. The resolution should identify the property to be sold and may, but not required, to set a minimum bid process. So it was posted January 25th and maybe at February 25th. So maybe at a January meeting or a December meeting or somewhere thereabout, the city council voted on by resolution to authorize the sale of the two properties by sealed bid. Because basically that would be step 1 under General Statute 168. Step 2, publish a notice of sale once in a newspaper, general circulation within its jurisdiction. Electronic advertising is not authorized. The notice must summarize the context of the resolution adopted by the board of the specific date, time, and location of the public bid opening. The advertisement must be published at least 7 days before the opening of the bid for personal property, and at least 30 days before the bid of opening for real property. They receive and open the bids at the public bid opening. The governing board awards the highest responsible bidder and rejects all other bids. So, so while the bid is sealed, it seems to me that they must open the sealed bids in a public way. Based on what I just read, again, someone else can take a look at that. And it's General Statute 168-268 related to the disposal procedures for local governments when it deals with the sealed bid process. In fact, let me do this real quick. Do this real quick here. But hopefully somebody will bid on those, get them restored, and make the neighborhood a better place with those two pieces of properties being restored. And perhaps the last developer who was doing something to those homes will have brought them back up to a certain degree where it is beneficial to the next person who is looking to do that. But we did find that out about the whole seal bid process and how that works. And again, I have been aware of seal bids happening, but I did not realize that the process of opening the bids are supposed to be public. And I'm not quite sure to do that. And again, you've heard me talk about this before. And again, I'm not a know-it-all when it comes to city government, how it should work. But I can take the time to read, right? And oftentimes, people who are in elected positions will not do things the correct way, and they will smooth talk other citizens and people to make you think they did it the correct way, and they never go back and fix their issue. However, if you are a citizen in the community and you do something the wrong way, they're going to penalize you. They're going to fee you to death. They're going to tax you to death. They're going to send you demand letters and all this kind of stuff for things that you get wrong. But if they do it, it is, well, I don't know. We can go back and redo it type situation. There's never one, hey, we got it wrong. Here's what we learned from this type situation. I'm not going to say never, because perhaps it has happened and I'm just not privy to it, or either just forgot about it happening. Well, yeah, it did, because that was the hiring of manager Rochelle Small-Tony. They did it in closed session, and that's not the way you're supposed to hire a city manager. So they had to go back and do the vote publicly. And so there's this thought process that because people are in a particular position, or because they present themselves as an expert on this or this, that, and third, we believe that those individuals are mistake-free, that they will always have it right 100% of the time. And that's just not true, because we're all human beings. And so that is something that, we should learn and understand it. But of course, if you say it, then you get folks get mad with you and start talking about you. And I've learned, of course, I've now really don't care about that, because the reality is, I think we all do better when we know better, and we all can help each other along the way. And that way, everybody don't have to know everything, right? And so if you got this person's doing this person's doing that, and you kind of say, well, here it is, and here's how I know it type situation. For instance, the whole Social Security checks being paid to deceased people and all that kind of stuff. Do it happen? Sure. Is it happening? Probably at the magnitude that social media, through in part by tweets, would make you think. Probably not, because the solvency of the American government would not be as stable. I guess I'll use that word, as stable as it is, if they were just getting bamboozled out of money all the time. I just don't think that there was widespread Social Security abuse. Again, though, you can't. That's subjective because some will say that one is too many. One is too many. That the software should be updated to be able to identify when a person is deceased, and I think it does do that. And also, I think it was very clear that just because a person's name was showing up in a database, does not mean that they were actually issued payment. It's just that that database has not cleared out their name from it, but does not actually mean payment was issued to them. Caller, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing, sir?
I'm well. Hope you are. Happy New Year to you.
Oh yeah, Happy New Year to you. It's been a while. I've been looking forward to you coming back, and I forgot. I didn't know you was on YouTube the other day, so I checked it out this morning.
Okay.
So good to hear from you. Hope you're doing good. But I did want to say it's just to get back more on the federal side of it, and Trump recently. I do like that he hosted and he's done it before in his terms. The Black History Month event, and it had, I like, that it had a wider range of people, whether celebrities, whether podcasters, people that supported him, a ton of Black people, and I wanted to congratulate, I think her name is Elise Mary Johnson, who he named the Pardon Czar, and she's a Black woman who's had a lot of work in criminal justice reform. She was actually somebody he pardoned his first term, who was in jail for 20-plus years for nonviolent drug offenses. And ever since she got out, she's been doing criminal justice reform. And so I wanted to congratulate her. And I think, just in this Black History Month, that's something to congratulate and to think about and dwell on. But also, I think it fights back against the narrative constantly of, this presidency is going to be one that's of racism, and we're going to strip away Black History Month, and then he had a Black History Month event, with the Black people that support him, and so people didn't see that. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, and so you think that one day of activity does not negate that it negates all the other things that before. I don't know if you was tuning in earlier, but I was talking about the funding that was taken away from historically Black college universities as it relates to scholarship dollars for students who were recipient of scholarships. And based on the president's DEI initiative retraction, it has caused some of those scholarships to be halted, paused, or maybe even canceled, impossibility. And so how does that one day of recognition and glorification of individuals who rightfully so are probably doing some amazing things in this country, what does that do for the future generation who may be totally dependent upon some of those full ride tuition scholarships in which they earn based on their GPA standards, based on whatever academically credentials others that they needed to be selected for such a scholarship?
I'm not familiar with what's going on with the HBCUs as far as what's the reasons for the funding being halted or paused. I think you mentioned at one point. I didn't catch the show in the beginning. Okay. I had to rewind on some things because I didn't know you started before 8. So I'm not that familiar with it. And I don't think one day would be something to negate something, but at the same time, too, I felt like he's done plenty even in his first term, even over his time in the public arena of how we've seen him, versus how the messaging of him has changed since he won the Republican nomination the first time. And so I think for the longest time he didn't have this perception of being this racist, rich white man that hated Black people or whatever. And so to me, it's not just like a one-day thing. I think he's always done a Black History Month event when he was the president the first time, and he's always had Black friends throughout his life, and so sometimes I just think it's perception, and then there's reality, and we just don't have the reality. And there's enough to show that if this man was just an outright racist, why do these things? Because you don't have to at all. Like, you don't have to have a Black History Month event. You don't have to do any of those things. So I don't know for the halting. As much as I know right now, isn't a bunch of funding for a bunch of areas getting paused right now as they go through the whole audit and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know if it's to that, but that's just me saying I don't know the reasoning why. I don't think it's because they're predominantly black schools or anything like that. Because at one point in his term, the first term, he gave grants to those HBCUs or signed grants to those HBCUs. So I don't know the reasoning for it. I haven't researched it enough.
Yeah, well, it is because of the DEI, walking back the DEI initiatives, and so they want to be sure that the programs or dollars, the federal dollars being spent, are in line with President Donald Trump's thought process when it comes to his DEI policies or the lack thereof. And so when you have scholarship dollars that are going to historically black college universities, well, then it kind of raises the question of maybe that's a DEI type scholarship, right? And so it's from the 1890, it's called the 1890 scholarship through the Department of Agriculture. And so I believe, based on the report I just read, that you'd be able to go to not North Carolina, but the federal Ag's office and see some announcement there where they suspended or halted or the scholarships as they go and review those things. And so then you have those students who most likely are minority students who would then be negatively impacted because we now live in a country where DEI is just taboo.
I mean, I don't think I think it was always been taboo. I think to me, it's like affirmative action pretty much, but just extending to multiple groups of people now. But at the same time too, nobody, affirmative action has always been taboo. It's celebrated as a political achievement, but at the same time too, socially and culturally, it's taboo because nobody wants to be seen as the affirmative action hire. Nobody wants to be seen as I've only gotten here because of the color of my skin, or this interview is only happening because of the color of my skin. I don't think we hear that affirmative action as much anymore. But I think if like for me, I encounter it with football. The NFL still has rules called the Rooney Rule that is geared towards minority coaches and stuff. And so the issue comes up every year in the NFL with how they treat. And are you familiar with that rule?
I've heard it before. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, and it's if they have to each team has to interview so many minority coaches per, I guess, white coaches or whatever, but at least one minority coach. And they give, if you have a minority coach on your team who gets hired by another team and he gets an elevation in his career, then you get an extra draft pick. And so a lot of black coaches don't really like the rule because they know that they're only getting the interview because of the optics. You have to interview me, but you already know the guy you want to hire. But because of the rules, you have to interview me. And so some of it is kind of, you get it. At one point, maybe you needed it, but now it can be kind of degrading to like, we're only doing this because of, my race. And so many black coaches decline the offer to interview with people. So,
and I think that's probably ignorance on their behalf because basically, I think we're going back to a time where there will be no interviews of people of color, maybe even women and et cetera. Unfortunately, I think and I get it. The narrative was very much true. Make America great again. So, as I said in the front of the show, that everything that President Donald Trump is doing, he, along with the Project 2025 group, was very clear as to what they were going to do, and they're doing that. And so I think as a citizen of America, I have to respect that 100%. But do I see some of the dangerous plateaus that we are probably going down? Absolutely.
So you believe that in a Donald Trump presidency, we're going to get to a point to where minorities lose more rights, won't be interviewed for jobs really, and women will lose
Absolutely.
The same thing?
Absolutely. So you've seen companies who say, hey, we're no longer going to deal with DEI. We're going to take off funding away from actively looking and to be sure that our company is diverse, that we are an inclusive company rather. And so you are seeing that. You're seeing that here in North Carolina as a local DEI bill that talks about state government fundings where they cannot use state funding to deal with DEI. So, for instance, here locally in Rocky Mount has a women and minority program that tries to get minorities and women, which is also minorities, when it comes to government contracts, in position to be awarded contracts. Well, if this law passes, we're thinking it's House Bill 171 in North Carolina, the city of Rocky Mount will have to dissolve that program. They cannot go out and try to say, hey, and again, I got to get the right numbers on this, but about 99% of the contract dollars from the city of Rocky Mount were going to non-black entities, non-minority entities. And so the council some years ago recognized that during the time Rochelle was the city manager and created, or at least started to the creation of that program for minorities and women to do contracts with the city of Rocky Mount. And so, absolutely, there's going to be a negative impact towards minorities in this country under a DEI Donald President's presidency. We already see that. We talked about the 94 plus students who scholarships were on pause slightly and the frustration with that. So here I am trying to get through college. And I thought I had everything set. And now I'm trying to figure out, will I be able to be here next semester type situation. So now can I study hard while trying to focus on how I'm going to do that at the same time?
I mean, it's unfortunate. But it's I think a lot of the people who have had the office have said they were going to try to figure out ways to balance the budget, and they never delivered on it. If anything, we've added more. I think we have 400 plus bureaucracies. They don't really know. And so to do what they're doing, I understand of having to say, hey, let's kind of put a pause on things as we go through things so that we're not still just pouring out money before we look at the things. So in a sense, I get it. I think it's unfortunate. I think anytime it can be unfortunate for plenty of people if the money isn't, if money that was being given isn't coming now. It's something that just you have to change for you. But to me, it's not just a Donald Trump thing. I think it's what the American people what he said he was going to do, and the American people wanted him to deliver on that. And so I don't think it's just anything that he's doing, and the people who voted for him are kind of like, man, we didn't know it was going to be like this. So it's not just a him thing, and that's multiple groups of people who are voting for that, who are saying like, hey, this is kind of getting out of hand because it leans so much into, it's not just a race thing as far as I understand with DEI. It's also a sexuality thing, a gender thing. And a lot of our tax dollars was going to things that we were like, hey, we didn't know it was going to this, and we don't necessarily agree with it, and the American people voted on it. And so I can't fault him for doing what he said he was going to do. I don't think I don't think this is going to limit black people or anybody else. I think America is still open to anyone. That's why people want to come here so much, to where if you put the work in, and if you got the merit, and if you got if you're a star, you're going to shine no matter what. I mean, I just believe that. And I believe black people were doing fine if they so sought to do fine before DEI initiatives, before affirmative action. I feel like that was something that black people can do. Maybe we can, I wouldn't say before affirmative action, but I don't want to go back that far. I have to defend that. But I will say before DEI, I mean, I feel that was, and I feel that was fine to take that away.
2008, we elected the first African-American president of the United States of America. That was way out there, affirmative action, right?
Yeah.
In, I don't know, most recent years, we're still seeing the first minorities to be in particular positions, right? Or first minorities be fired from positions at the same time during this particular time. And so while I hear what you're saying, and I think we've heard that over the years, I think when we look at actuality, you talked about the reality versus perhaps an augmented reality. I think oftentimes we live in an augmented reality and we think that things are great for people because we have this expectation for it to be great, but ultimately they are not as well as they could be based on subconscious norms that we have in our country, based on stereotypes that we have in our communities. And unfortunately, that's a long cycle to break, unfortunately.
How
And
does
I
the
wish,
government stop subconscious norms? And you
yeah,
use some other phrase. Like
yeah,
those things seem like, because to me, I feel like, people had an uproar. I guess it's an uproar. It's the internet, so it's hard to know what is an uproar anymore and what's the media just saying this is big. But people had an issue, or some people had an issue, with the NFL removing the end racism thing from not just the Super Bowl, but it's going to be for the fields, all the fields. They're just removing that, and it's been there a long time, but a lot of people feel like, okay, they don't care about black people anymore or anything like that, I guess. But I don't feel racism will ever end on the earth.
So a subconscious norm, it actually is very conscious, is when people make statements, they're taking our jobs, right?
Well, okay, you said subconscious, so
Yeah,
it means like you're not aware of it.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I said even some subconscious norms become even conscious. And I was verbalized, and I say they take our jobs. Exactly.
Who is the they like like immigrants or something?
Exactly. So they're taking our jobs, and so
But
then this becomes a situation of let's get rid of DEI because the they that's taking our jobs, whoever those individuals are, were probably benefactors of DEI, and so the way to get that back is not to have DEI. And so there are a lot of things that go. And again, I will say that the subconscious thought process becomes very conscious. It is an innate thing that is, we look at explicit and unexplicit biases that exist as well. So our norms of just being partial to one thing over another, that it makes us feel safer with this type of situation versus another. And whether we express it verbally or not, we also can express it through our actions.
So if black people who feel like their job was being taken by immigrants because companies wanted to use cheaper labor, and they say they're taking our jobs, they're taking our school, they're giving our school to them, they're giving our building and housing and our money to them, is that like racism too?
So notice I didn't use any color. I said they.
I know, I'm saying like,
and I said DEI. So it is across the road for whoever they is and whomever was the recipient of the benefit from DEI, right? So it can be anybody for that, right? So while racism is about color, it could be across a number of colors when it comes to mistreatment based on race.
So anybody that's against DEI initiatives or DEI policy, regardless of race, gender, or anything, are adopting
to a certain degree,
subconscious, like a subconscious racism, and then expressing their racism.
To a certain degree, when you and I used it as an illustration yesterday or one of these days, I said, hey, you got a cake, and you cut a cake into 100 slices, and we will get upset about 3 slices of that cake being offered or given to someone outside of what we consider our norm, who's supposed to have it, right? While you still have 97 pieces of the cake left, we get so bent over backwards about 3% or 3 slices of cake out of 100 slices of cake that are equal in size, right? How do we get there? Unless we have a genuine disconcern for humanity. Because no matter what your skin color is, no matter if you're male or female, you have to live.
So are you against borders, like, at all, like, period?
We talked about this conversation before.
I know. I wasn't trying to ask for like a long answer. It was just like almost like yes or no. I mean, like that would almost put you at odds with like every country in the world, because every country in the world has borders.
But how does borders have to do with DEI?
Well, we were talking about they are taking our jobs, the conversation, and I even asked about, is this like almost talking about, could we use this for immigration and what was going on? Now, I don't know if you want to, but if we're not talking about that, then I think we need to remove the vagueness, because the vagueness is, are we talking about DEI. White people talking about, well then, okay, are we talking about, because you keep saying, you said at one point that you're not defining who these we or the they are, but it makes the conversation hard, because when I try to pin it to say about immigration or about who's saying it, then it gets, we go back to the vagueness. And so are we not talking about just in general of the they taking our jobs? Because a lot of people have been saying that, not about black people, but about the immigration stuff as of late. But if we're not talking about that, and if we are just talking about white people talking about black people or people of color and their jobs, then that would help the conversation. But I don't know specifically what you're talking about.
Well, I don't think, well, again, I let me digress from that, because I was about to say I don't think it helped the conversation either way, but actually I have to own up to the fact you said it would help the conversation if I was pinning it down to a specific situation. However, no, the they is very plural, because life is subjective, right? So what is meaningful to you is not meaningful to another person. And so that is why you can, in your instance, want to take the they to border situation. My they was just whomever upends someone from a job, no matter locale, simply based on the ideal diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's
you don't think businesses are you don't think businesses are at fault? Okay, that's the better question maybe. Do you think businesses are wrong that go through the means of hiring low-wage immigrants in a country instead of hiring Americans because they got to pay more money? You don't think businesses are wrong for that? You think they should be able to do that? Because and the people who would argue against that is
businesses can do whatever they want to do. It is up to the consumer to decide whether or not I want to support the philosophy of that business or not. And so
you don't take any moral issue with that, with companies?
Sure I would. So you just heard
that's what I'm asking,
no, you missed it, because I said businesses are allowed to do whatever they want to do, and it's up to the individual to decide whether or not they want to support that business based on what they're doing. So obviously, I would take more issue with the business doing something that I believe is against my frame of thinking, against my value system, right? And that is why, one, we should be aware of what businesses are doing, who they are supporting and not supporting, because ultimately we'll be funding our own demise. I've been talking about funding our own demise for years. We'll spend money at various businesses, and ultimately this business is not for you at all. Doing everything possible to backtrack everything you're trying to accomplish. So absolutely, I think that's
the thing that jumps out to me in the conversation is you didn't really answer the particular question of, is this wrong for a company to do and we can say specifically in America? You didn't. You just said.
I did. Hold on. Let's stop you right there then. So, no, I do not think it's wrong for a company to have any type of hiring process practices they want to do. It is then up to the consumer to decide whether or not they want to support those type of practices. If somebody wants to be a drunk all their life, that is their prerogative. Now, do I support that drunk by giving them more alcohol? No, right? So those are choices that you make as individuals. But that business, as I think law has laid it out, is that they are their own entity, right? They're their own being, so to speak, right? So they're allowed to do whatever they want to do. It's up to the consumer to say, do I want to give my hard-earned money to someone or some organization to do that?
You don't find fault with the business morally, but you do find fault with the people that criticize the business that
No,
does
no,
it.
no,
to
that's
where,
not.
but
No,
you said
so
they
you're
had,
not
you
listening,
said they had
brother.
subconscious racism.
You're not listening because obviously I said we can find fault with
I'm
business
listening.
morally.
I'm trying. I'm
Wait.
listening.
Then
I'm quiet and I'm listening.
Then you should have heard that you can find fault with the business morally, and because you find fault with the business morally, you don't support that business.
But you said if someone finds fault with the business by saying they're taking our jobs and you're finding fault with the business because they're hiring them, that's criticism. But you said to lay that criticism and say those things is based on subconscious racism, regardless of the person's color that says it. If I'm following you right, and I mean,
say that one more. Say that one more time.
You said a person can have criticism of a business based on their moral code, and you gave your answer that you wouldn't have a fault with the business doing it.
Yes.
However, to say that they are taking our jobs, somebody has to hire them for their jobs. You're also criticizing the business for doing that. But you said to criticize the business for doing that, you're racist. You have subconscious racism.
They are taking our jobs, criticizing the business for offering the jobs to a DEI hire.
Yeah, if you had, I think it was a company, a business in Detroit, a big bakery plant that hired majority immigrants.
Okay.
And I think it was in the black community, and and so when I think the state or somebody went through there, they found that a bunch of people were not legal Americans, and they had to fire them and hire the Americans that were in the community that weren't benefiting from this plant being there. But it seems like we're saying that those people that complained about the business doing that, giving their jobs away to those people who aren't Americans, that it was a subconscious racism.
So a business hired.
I mean, there's been plenty of businesses that have done this in the past.
Illegal immigrants who were not supposed to be gainfully employed at that institution.
I don't know.
So the question is, if they broke some type of law by hiring people whom some would say don't supposed to be there, then obviously you don't supposed to do that, right? I guess I'm not.
If I'm trying to, we talk about it in like a localized, manner.
Sure.
And sometimes I like to jump to the broader. That's why I jump to the broader to say, like, okay, well, what's your opinion on the border period? Because it seems like it's a radical view that I haven't heard often, if ever, of that we pretty much should just have no limitations of who wants to be here and why. And I think I remember one time asking you a question: if somebody who's not even supposed to be here commits a crime, should they be forced to go back? And you said you didn't know for sure, or you were like, no, but you didn't say yes. I know that. And I mean, even that was like radical, because why are we taking other countries' criminals or people who are committing crimes here, and we don't even want to send them back to their country when they're not even supposed to be here? And that's not an unchristian way of thinking. That's not something that goes against Jesus or anything. I don't feel any tug spiritually when I say that. I just think it's every country does this, and so on some level it's common sense. To maintain your country, you still have to have some kind of borders to who you bring in and protect yourself.
So as long as they have $5 million, they should be able to come to our country.
As long as you go through the normal means of whatever, and with however the country wants to do it for the most part. But to have no borders, like to me, that's to say so like, again, okay,
so
but this person
Trump
has a bunch of money. Can they become a citizen? If the government wants to make a way for this person who's going to benefit, I'm not against a country can woo somebody over from another country that's going to be benefited from being over here, whether financially, whether the freedoms, and the country's going to benefit. I see nothing wrong with it. There's people can go where they want to go the right way.
People can go where they want to go based on what they can afford, then based on, because again, President Trump said he's planning to introduce a new visa to attract rich foreigners to America, something he's calling the gold card. For $5 million, people will be able to apply to become lawful permanent residents. Trump says the program will roll out in the next 2 weeks to bring very high-level people. He said the proceeds of the program will help pay down the deficit. $5 million at a time is not going to do nothing to $1 trillion deficit. But that's neither here nor there. But so again, I'm hearing that you are okay with the idea that those people are the least of these, because they don't have the financial means, they should just be thrown in the trash. And those who have financial wealth in the program, and the government will allow such financial wealth to come into our community, you're fine with that.
Well, to go back to your phrase of "you're not listening," nowhere did I say it anywhere. Should someone be thrown in the trash at all?
Well, I want to go to the extreme because you said I was going to the extreme, so I wanted to.
Well,
keep it
to say no borders is extreme. Like, yeah, to say no borders, and well, you didn't say it, but you just without saying it is loud too. Mm-hmm. That's extreme. Like, when was the last time you had a conversation with someone about any kind of border, and their position was, man, I really don't think we should have the border at all, and if you want to come here, you should just come. Like, that's like pushes in the face of every country in the world. Like, you would have to. I mean, that's extreme. I'm not wild for saying that.
So I have a passport, right?
Uh-huh.
And so in order to go to the country, you go through the process of using a passport. So I understand the ideas of borders, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how to rightfully enter and exit a country beyond the United States of America. So to think that I'm naive enough to believe that countries shouldn't have some type of door, a living room, and etc. Is just not the case. Just not the case.
I mean, it seems like it seems like you would have an issue long-standing with our immigration policy overall, to where it's too limiting on who can come over here.
You gotta have $5 million bucks. Yeah, I think you gotta have $5 million bucks to come over here now. So
I'm not against. No, you don't have to have $5 million bucks to come here. There's people who are going through the regular way.
No, I'm talking about this new $5 million way.
I mean, well, if he wants to come up with some way to bring over people who what he feels will benefit, then again, I'm not against people coming to this country. I'm not against people going to move their citizenship other places. You rarely see that here, though. We have to. I wanted to ask you this, and I'm not trying to be weird or rude with the question, but what do you love about America?
That's something I would probably have to take a day and think about, because the America that I see today is something that perhaps I will fall out of love with. The America I've seen in some parts of my life was the utopic America in which you once talked about, where if you work hard, you can matriculate up a ladder. Unfortunately, currently, I'm not seeing that in the America I see today. So to answer your question, I'll think about it for 24 hours and tell you tomorrow what I love about America. But I will say this immediately, though. I love about America that we still right now have some sense of free speech, that you and I are able to engage in conversation over a public broadcast station that is sometimes being threatened by our current administration of taking people FCC license and all this kind of stuff to limit free speech. And so, again, that downward spiral of what America was and what it might be in the next couple of years is somewhat times could be frightening. But I appreciate you. I've always enjoyed talking to you.
Oh, yeah, always, brother. Have a good one.
You too. 55 minutes past 8 o'clock hour this morning on Wncr-Tv Now. I always enjoy talking to Mr. Smiley there this morning. And thank all of y'all for tuning in this morning as well to Wncr-Tv Now. Those who tune in now, those who will be tuning in later, we certainly appreciate each and every one of you all. Hey, caller, good morning on the air.
Good morning. I'm sorry, I'm just tuning in.
Okay.
But when I heard about that gold card last night, I said to myself, the have and the have not.
Absolutely.
But my question is, if you run away from your country, you want to pay $5 million, you don't did something wrong. He ain't doing them for bringing criminals over, too, as he say the everyday people are. So I just don't understand it. And I don't understand Congress let this man get away with all this stuff that he's doing. And I hate to say it, I don't want to be on the FBI watch list, but anybody that keep allowing Trump to do the things that they do, it's a darn shame. And I hate to say it, and I ain't wishing no harm on nobody. But just like these planes having accidents every day, I want to hear about him. Now, I'm going to be quite honest with you, because this is just, this country is becoming questionable. I just can't see us allowing this man to come in and his gang of thugs to do the things that they're doing. They're all up in our Social Security number and privacy. You know what I mean? Some things is just not, it got to be untouchable unless you have the clearance to do that. And Elon Musk, he may be the richest man in the world. He probably financed his campaign. But guess what? Some stop got to come to this.
Yeah.
And I just can't see Mr. Smiley continually supporting this individual. And I hate to call out his name because he's one that I really and truly have problems with his thought process. But nevertheless, I just can't see it. And then to say he's going to cut Medicaid, and all he's doing is weeding people out. How people going to pay the medical bills?
Yeah.
And he's trying to get rid of the foreigners. He said that he would keep the CHIP program because children do need some type of insurance. But how are you going to support half and not support all? It's just like 6 in one hand and half dozen in the other. Why not support the parents?
Yeah. And I have a conversation with people that I really don't know if Trump is actually running the United States of America in the office of president. I think there's a lot of handlers in this administration compared to his first administration. I think his first administration, he was Donald Trump. I think now he has been pretty much allowing other folks to do a whole lot of stuff that may not naturally be him. So, but he'll, it's a crazy time, all I can say, at the end of the day.
Yeah, Elon Musk is definitely running, but you know what? That marriage is going to end pretty soon because the two of them are going to fall out about something. And you're going to see who the real Trump is, who the real Elon Musk is, and all those other flunkies that follow behind him. I continuously say to people, be prepared because a change got to come. And if you're not prepared for what is coming, you're going to be in a mess. Now, I'm going to be quite honest with you. So that gold card, I said to myself, this is totally ridiculous.
Gold card. Wealth right there in itself. But thank you much.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Our time is coming gone this morning. We thank you so much for tuning in to Wncr-Tv Now as we continue to talk about things impacting our state, our city, and our nation. Yesterday, I was on the radio, 102.15 for a couple of hours. Might even did it again today. Don't forget to check out Pop's Diner, 132 South Church Street, downtown Rocky Mount, open from 11 until 6 p.m. And, of course, Gotta Have It Auto Sales, 1211 North Wesleyan Boulevard. I'll see you tomorrow, similar time. I come on before 7 o'clock now. Before 8 o'clock now, not before 7. Before 8 o'clock now. So definitely tune in early. We'll see you tomorrow to do it all over again on WNCR TV Now.